Welcome to Walt Disney World Clicks. I'm your host Kevin, and this week we're doing something a little bit different. We're going on a tour of the marathon weekend. It was the Walt Disney World Marathon weekend this past weekend, and so I'm showing you first pictures of the expo. Now this is where you pick up race packets. It's where you look around at what the vendors are selling and pick up your t-shirts, have a look at the medals that you might be winning if you go through the races this particular weekend. There's so many medals now in the Disney running universe that they've got 2 different tables full of medals. And they even try to sell you merchandise, some of it branded for the weekend and so forth. Now there are several different races on this weekend: a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, and a full marathon. And the new thing this time was the Dopey Challenge. And in fact, I ran the Dopey Challenge. I did the 5K, 10K. 10K was the new one, and then had done the half and the full together. And what I'm bringing you pictures of mostly, however, is just the first night, which was the 5K. One last picture actually before we leave the expo, and that's the New Balance booth. Disney's got an agreement with New Balance for the official running shoe. Now, for those of you who've never done one of these races, I thought I would show you in some pictures what these are like. Now, this is obviously a stitched-together panorama of shortly before the 5K race, which was the smallest of the races, and only had, I think it was about 10 or 12,000 people, I think. 60,000 people took part in the entire weekend. About 7,000 people took part in the Dopey Challenge, which was doing all the races. And so this is me holding the camera kind of over my head. It was taken with a camera phone, as most of our pictures will be on this particular update, so it's a lesser quality. And so you can see it's just you're surrounded by people on all sides, really, when you sign up for this. And this is in the corrals just before the race begins. Now here's a regular angle type shot, so you can see that for the 5K they had ABCD, maybe ABCD, E corrals. And the people were fairly tightly packed in that, and they let you go a little bit at a time. And when you cross the start line, one corral, one wave, as they call it, at a time, there are fireworks let off. And so the actual marathon had bigger, more elaborate fireworks than what you see at the 5K here, but having a start line is always kind of the same thing. That's what the start line looks like from the other side. Now what you do is you run around through the back areas of the parks. Now the 5K runs around Epcot, and so this is a path you don't normally get to take, and you can run past Disney characters and stop and take pictures with them. It'll take you through a back entrance to Epcot, a horribly blurry picture, apologize for that. This is a cast member parking lot, but this is a security guard shack, and you can see the people kind of vaguely running past it. And then back underneath Test Track, and I'll show you some pictures of that in a few minutes from a different event. Now this was part of the Dopey Challenge, and so they had Dopey out. You could take pictures with Dopey as well. If you recognize, we're at the Wishing Well side of Germany here in World Showcase. This is the end of the line over by the restrooms, the other side of the Germany Showcase. So of the runners running this race, a huge amount of them wanted to take a picture with Dopey, and so they just simply stopped their race for that time and stood in line. And they do have lots of characters out, many of them that you don't see normally, and they had different characters throughout the 4 different days of events. Here's another backstage shot. This is the World Showplace, or was once used for the Millennium. This is what it looks like from the outside, and so we are actually behind the Canada, United Kingdom, I guess, is coming up right over here on the right side. Not Canada, excuse me. The United Kingdom, France is where we had just come from a moment ago. And you make your way through the park, sometimes with cones, because the park will later be open and there will be guests on the other side of the cones. Now that doesn't happen on the 5K. It's such a short race, but it does happen with the other ones, as you'll see later on. And they do run you through some other backstage areas. This is near the front entrance, and so there are some cast member lockers here and some signs for the cast members. And you can see there's one of the photographers for the event taking pictures of people in the foreground with Spaceship Earth in the background itself. There are these mile markers, and the first race is not timed, so I basically walked parts of it, so I was saving myself for the Dopey Challenge. And then you get to the grandstands, and people are all excited, and then finally you cross the finish line, and sometimes they have characters out here to meet you, and you can see your time and so forth. And as you cross the finish line, there are things timing you if it's a timed race. This one wasn't, and lots more photographers on the sides and up in these balcony areas up at the top as well. Ran into this woman who ran the 5K in full garb as a firefighter. It turns out I would later see her across many of the other races also wearing the same things. So hats off to her. She really took it upon herself to wear a tough costume for the event and made it work for her. Now I'm going to be showing you some pictures from 2011. This is from the marathon day of 2011, last time I ran the marathon. Just show you some of the things that I could capture on a marathon. I didn't bring my camera this week's marathon, so I would show you some of the things from previous times. And this is a boneyard of sorts, Jungle Cruise boat. These are the Lights of Winter arches on that initial walkout to the start line. Now, these areas were cleaned up this most recent weekend, so that's not there anymore. That particular weekend, they had these fire and gas-driven fire plumes rather than fireworks for the start line. That was an interesting thing, but they do have more fireworks now. They always have things for you to look at around every mile, every couple of miles. They'll have a band, or they'll have some entertainment set up, like the electrical parade floats here, seen at Epcot. Another blurry picture of several Geppetto figures that you don't normally get to see. Pinocchio figures, excuse me, that you don't normally get to see, Geppetto being only one of them. There's that picture I promised you from underneath test track, so when you're running on the marathon trails, and there are different routes that they set up around backstage, you get to see things you don't normally get to see. So as I said, they have some temporary things set up with character interactions. This is on that long stretch between Epcot and the Magic Kingdom. That's actually the Magic Kingdom parking over there. So this is a balloon, not Spaceship Earth, that you're looking at here on the photo. And you make your way up the Transportation and Ticket Center. Spectators can come greet you along the sides. And then you make your way along the Seven Seas Lagoon, and I wanted to show you the way they make this work with traffic is they have millions of cones set up along the sides and turn it into a one-way street, really. And then they have flagmen who let the cars go through one way at a time while the procession of runners make their way through the Magic Kingdom and so forth. Another spectator-oriented spot you can see here, again from 2011. Run around Tomorrowland, then towards the front of Fantasyland, and then you run through the castle. And that's a spot where they take a lot of the photos, actually, that they'll try to sell you later. Up through Frontierland, and then out the back near the Splash Mountain Gate. And so Splash Mountain is to my right as I take this picture. These are some of the parade buildings that you'll see up in the front here. And so there's that photo of Splash Mountain over on the right. So they do let you backstage, and back here is where they have one of their drink stations. They give you constant water and Powerade and so forth. Again, with the somewhat crowded road conditions, there was, I think, 24,000 on the year I took this photo in 2011, 30,000 people running the full marathon, or maybe it was the half marathon this past weekend, but this is what it feels like on that back road when it's sometimes getting a little bit tight. Now, the full marathon, you continue past the Speedway, and you take a different road, this road, towards Animal Kingdom. And so this is a backstage road you normally would not get to see, and you get to see some of the canals and some of the landscaped areas that normally are just completely inaccessible to you. So the signage for the Reedy Creek area about the nursery and the compost facility and all of that is normally very off limits. And here's the water treatment plant, and in fact you can smell that it's a water treatment plant when you're doing the marathon past this spot right here. And just after that comes the Bear Island Road crossing, and then you're in the horticulture area where you can see some of Disney's greenhouses. And then the backstage areas for Animal Kingdom finally, because you're about to go into Animal Kingdom itself. On this particular year, here's where this is the kind of signage they had. They do change the signage every single time, and so I've always been impressed with what they've done to make the signage look interesting. And you can see some of the backstage areas of Animal Kingdom. Here's the back of the area near Nemo as we exit back out stage, run around Osceola Parkway, and then come in through the side entrance of Disney's Hollywood Studios near Tower of Terror. So we've come in through Tower of Terror in this photo, and we are making our way just past Tower of Terror, was on our left and just behind us, on our way up towards the backlot tour area. So this is another backstage area you normally don't get to see. You can poke your head around the corner there and see what Tower of Terror looks like. Some additional character interactions here in this spot, a backstage parking garage that normally the guests don't get too close to. You even get to run through this particular tunnel that you normally only see in the backlot tour. And then you make your way down the front areas of Hollywood Studios and then down to the walking path between Epcot and Hollywood Studios. So we're going to do the walking path from here over to Boardwalk area, and then from there into Epcot, as you can see here. And then you run around Epcot and then out toward the finish. Now I've also included for you a couple of shots of the tinfoil, I guess these are heat shields, that I once did an overnight stint as a volunteer for. And so this is what my night was like, building this, really a bunker it looked like, of all of these sheets, so it was easy to just grab them and hand them off to the runners as they came into the finish line. So those of you interested in volunteering for the event can find information on runDisney about doing that as well. And so this is what it looks like if you're the volunteers handing out those heat shields as the runners finish their races. Let's take a look at this week's, or actually last week's, Where in Walt Disney World Was This? Here was the original photograph. And as I give you the answer, I'll show you the somewhat larger picture. You can see that some of you indeed had the right answer. It was in mouse gear. So this week's challenge looks like this. I'm not going to say much about what it is and merely ask you once again, where in Walt Disney World was this? Go ahead and give me your answers in the comments field below. Now, normally I would finish at this point, but if you're paying close attention, you'll notice that the image says Yearbook 2013 instead of Yearbook 2012. It turns out I've got another book ready to publish, and in fact it's out there now. It's on Amazon. You can find it on Amazon just by searching Walt Disney World Yearbook 2013. And I'm just going to show you a few of the images that made it into the book this year. It was obviously a lot of changes throughout the parks, a lot of retheming of things, switching around of locations. We lost some locations, some were added and some were tested. And so I was taking photos of these things throughout the years. And some, like this one, for instance, of a Countdown to Fun, was the parade that ended this year, might not have been taken in this particular year. Sometimes things change locations, like Curl did, or we just lost them entirely, like the soundstage has now been replaced by the Meet Minnie experience, or these Disney Junior elements that have now been replaced by new elements at Disney Junior. So the yearbook is a book designed to capture all of the changes in the parks throughout that year, like it's a high school yearbook, and that's why we call it the Walt Disney World Yearbook. I put out one a year, and it's mostly photograph driven. This is only a sampling of the photos that you'll find in the book for the year. And then I come back to these books a few years later and always marvel at how much was changed just within that 1 year. And so they really do refresh these parks and do a lot of different things and add things and change things around. And so I'm happy that I found a way to chronicle all of it in addition to these slideshows that I've been bringing you, and hope that you guys find the publication interesting as well. So check it out if you get a chance at Amazon. It's the Walt Disney World Yearbook 2013. There are past years as well. I started doing it in 2010 was the first yearbook that you'll find available for purchase. That does it for this week, guys. Thanks as always for your attention, and we'll catch you next time.